no longer necessary to sustain one's life. One does it to excess. One does it in a systematic and in an abusive and an inhuman way. And so, of course, what I'm saying is anyone who's not a vegetarian in our modern society is committing or participating in an act of evil, because, you know, our commercial, corporatized food system does indeed unnecessarily inflict pain and suffering on animals.
So you're a vegetarian?
No, I'm not. I'm
Okay.
a lot like you. I'm a hypocrite.
A self-professed hypocrite at that.
Yes. I'm wrestling with that, too.
I mean, why wouldn't you just stop eating meat?
I think I eventually will.
So you would classify yourself then as an evil person?
Yes.
Wow. Yes. Interesting.
Well, I'm an agnostic. One of the things that you do as an agnostic is you acknowledge your own weaknesses, your own hypocrisy, your own humanity, and you try to become a better person, and for very rational reasons. Because to the extent that you try to be a better person, you have a reason, you have a justification to demand that other people treat you correctly. We don't have a rational right to demand that we be treated humanely if we ourselves commit inhumane acts.
So, in your understanding of the way the world is, would you say that all human beings are to some degree evil?
Yes, I think so, and I think that's the answer to that question, that the existence of evil is explained by the existence of desire. Human beings are not like rocks, or they're not like trees, they're not like blades of grass. We have desire. We have both what I would call animal desires, the desire to procreate, the desire to consume food, to drink water, the desire to sleep, the desire for comfort, and we also have abstract desires, the desire for compensation for our work, the desire for recognition, the desire for status, for power. And so because of desire, there has to be the existence of evil, because desire means that we will inevitably come into conflict with each other and with ourselves because of the drive to gain things, to do things, to dominate the world around us, to control our own environment.
Well, if all that's true, I'm wondering, then why did you bring up the Roman Catholic Inquisitions? I mean, it seems to me that they were only playing out your philosophy of reality.
Well, no, because I'm not so simple-minded as to argue that we're automatons. The fact that we have will and that we have desire doesn't mean that we're at the mercy of those things. Rationalism says that we're able to rationally decide that we ought not to consume more than we need. We ought not to bring undue or unnecessary, inflict unnecessary suffering on others, because we can see rationally through the study of history, through the study of human interaction, that when you commit acts of violence, you're creating the possibility, the inevitability that acts of violence will be committed against you. I think that the rational tradition teaches that. And so we have examples of people like Einstein, who was very much against war, against violence, against the use of nuclear weapons, although he cautioned the president at the time that it was possible for nuclear weapons to be constructed. He warned the President of the United States that Germany was probably working on an atomic bomb. He didn't advocate that the United States build one. What he wanted was to spread knowledge, and his hope was, it's a rational hope, which sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, that the more knowledge one has, the more one will be led rationally to behave in a humane fashion. I think it is the province of religious belief, in fact, to be irrational, to think that because you have a divinely inspired entitlement to the true wishes of a so-called personal God, that one is able to inflict pain and suffering, one is able to be an inhumane and abusive person, and that you're acting out the will of God, and that you'll be protected. That the forces of rationality and history will not punish you for your behavior.
I don't know any Christians that believe that that's in fact what the Scriptures teach.
I don't know personally, because I don't know Pat Robertson. I don't know any Christians either on an individual level. Mm-hmm. But again, I don't look at Christians or Buddhists or any religious tradition, Muslims, as individuals when I critique these religious beliefs. I look at them as institutions or as social forces.
We've got several calls waiting, so let's go to our callers. Let's go first to Dustin calling from Greensboro, North Carolina. Dustin, welcome once again to the Atheist Hour.
Professor Waller, good evening. It's good to have you. Good to have you on the show. Enjoyed listening to you. I was taking some notes here, and I believe
Justin is fading.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, but you had said that it's not possible to confirm or deny the existence of a personal creator. And then you went on further to say that we don't have the capacity to comprehend the God. And is that true? Is that correct? Did I represent what you said correctly?
That pretty much sums up what I said, yes.
My understanding was that not only is Professor Waller an agnostic, says it's not possible to confirm or deny the existence of a personal creator, but we also don't have the capacity to comprehend a God. And if that's true, then how do I know that I can know that I have this capacity? In other words, how do I know that I have the capacity to know that we can't know a God? How do I make a positive assertion about the most ultimate issue that faces man when that very assertion rests upon a largely unknowability or a large inability to know that which I say that I'm making a positive assertion about? In other words, it seems to be a self-contradictory worldview because the claim here seems to make no assertion about ultimate reality, but yet it rests upon a most comprehensive assertion about that ultimate reality. So that's pretty much just the question I had. It seems to be self-contradictory from the get-go, but I appreciate you taking my call, and I'll take my answer off the air.
Thank you, Dustin.
Okay. Well, that's a common logical error that he just made. He's committing a reductio ad absurdum, which means reduction to absurdity. He's taking fairly straightforward and simple concept, which is, well, it's a rational concept, the acknowledgement of objective reality, and he's standing a little too close to it, so he's falling victim to the concept of infinite regress. How do I know that I know? How do I know that I know that I know? How do I know that I know that I know that I know? That's absurd. It's not necessarily wrong to pursue a line of questioning like that, which is the pursuit of ultimate knowledge. But he doesn't have to go that far. We can just stop at the first question. How do I know that I know? How do I know what I don't know? I know because I know. That's the answer.
Okay, but
don't have to go further than that.
See, as Christians, we say we know because God has said. But that's unacceptable to you. But yet, for some reason, it's acceptable just to say, well, I know because I know.
Well,
see, on the one hand,
I don't think that either is acceptable or unacceptable. Again, I think that it's not necessary to complicate things, except if you are a person who operates on faith. And I think that that's one of the pitfalls of faith. One ends up complicating things that aren't complicated at all, at least not at the level I'm speaking at, which is objective reality. I know that I have 4 fingers and a thumb. How do I know that I know? Now, that's an interesting question. It's one that we ought to explore, but we shouldn't put aside the first objective observation. I do have 4 fingers and a thumb. I know because I use them all the time. So I'm not making a positive assertion that I don't know that there's a God. In fact, atheists try to prove a negative, which is far more difficult to do. Atheists say there is no God. How do you prove a negative?
Well, it seems to me that you're running the same course when you say that it's impossible to prove that there is a God. I mean, how can you make that assertion unless you've examined? What you said, that you believe that it's impossible to either confirm or deny the proof or the existence of God based on evidence.
And I didn't quite say that either.
Okay, maybe
I
misunderstood you.
Is that it's not possible for us as human beings to do that.
But how would you know unless